Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all for the today's Knowledge Tuesday session. I'm Sumitra from HTIC MedTech Incubator hosting the session. Before we move to the session, I would like to make few guidelines. I request all the participants to kindly stay on muted and please unmute by yourself when you want to ask questions or you want to speak anything. We also created a feedback form for the session and we will be posting the feedback form link in the chat box, so requesting the participants to please fill the feedback form at the end of the session for us to improving the upcoming Knowledge Tuesday sessions. For the today's session, we have with us the speaker is Ramana Valluri, who is the product manager and digital transformation evangelist and also independent consultant advisor and mentor. And the topic for the today's session is opportunities in VR, AR and MR. Over to you, sir, to set the tone for the today's session.
Thank you, Sumitra.
Thank
Uh,
you.
a quick check if you're all able to hear me clearly and then
Yes, sir.
able to see, yes, and also my screen that I'm sharing. So first of all, thanks all of you for joining in. Uh, it's been a wonderful day today. I hope it's been the same with you, all of you. I am Ramana Valluri. I am a product manager. I've been in the IT industry for over 20 years. Been a product manager for more than 15 years, predominantly in the IT software industry. And I've been associated with startups for the past few years, mentoring startups, and also been associated with a few incubators. But primarily, I am an independent consultant right now, working with a few SMEs, helping them define their business model, optimize their business model, and the product that is the core of their business model. So that's a bit about me. Uh, I will. I mean, the way I have set this presentation up is I was told that we will have a Q&A session for the last 15 minutes. That's the norm. So I have made sure my content is. I mean, I will be able to cover most of the content before then, and definitely leave that 15 minutes for that interaction. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, probably you might want to just type into the chat box, and that way I will be able to view them probably in the last 15 minutes and then answer. Maybe I may not interrupt the flow in between. So with that, and one more thing is that I also will turn off my video just to make sure there are no issues with the bandwidth. So much for working from home. So I will turn off my video and I'll turn it back on towards the end of this session. So until then, stay tuned, and let's jump right into the presentation. All right. So when I was asked to present on the topic of AR, VR, and MR, I was thinking about the immersive technologies and what does it mean to me and what does it mean to all of us. So that's where my thought process started, and I've been thinking about it, and that's when something struck my mind from my childhood days. I think it was in 1984. What you're seeing right now is a poster of a movie called Chota. This was released in 1984. It was just a simple movie in the sense the storyline was quite simple. No big star cast. You know. Nothing extraordinary about the movie, except for one thing, which I will talk about in a little while. But then there was nothing extraordinary about the movie. I was in my primary school, and I still very vividly remember how much we were all, you know, we all wanted to watch this movie. It actually beat several movies by major or star heroes like Rajnikant and Kamal Hassan, and this movie apparently grossed much more than that. So as I said, there was nothing extraordinary about this movie, except that it was a 3D movie. It was the first Indian 3D movie, or a first movie, 3D movie made in India by a filmmaker, an Indian filmmaker. So this movie actually created quite a sensation in those days, right? Um, s- Everybody wanted to watch this movie. Um, People were trying to, schools were declaring holidays in turns so that the entire batch of students or bunch of students could go and watch the movie, right? And in the movie itself, since this was a 3D movie, there were shots or scenes where someone would hand out a ice cream, and then people sitting in were grabbing the hair of people in the front row. There were scenes in this movie where flaming arrows would be shot and they would come right into you, and that really meant people were really scared. There were a lot of people who complained about, or who were really scared, and they ran out of the theaters. A lot of activity was going on, a lot of craze about this movie. It was actually termed or dubbed as a children movie, but there were a lot of adults, or actually all of the adults, I would say, have watched this movie. Adults then. I was a kid at that point. I don't know how many of you, those who are attending, were born at that point. So a lot of that was going on. Why was all of this happening is that the 3D aspect of it, which gave that immersive feeling for all the participants, or all the people who were watching that movie. It was really, it took them into a stage, or it took them into a situation where they got totally immersed in the movie just because of the 3D effect. Otherwise, as I said, everything else was the same. The theaters were the same, the sound systems were the same. Every other aspect was as good as any other movie being released at that point, except for the 3D aspect. The 3D technology created that immersive feeling. Okay, I thought maybe back then this was very early days, and an average man, a common man, may not know a lot about these technologies, and probably that's the reason why you saw that kind of a craze or that kind of a response for that movie. But then what happened quite recently, just a couple of years ago, when Bahubali was released, right? You saw a very similar kind of craze, a similar kind of sensation, and all of this, or most of that, that response that you saw from the market is primarily because of the immersive feelings, immersive environment that these movies created. In terms of the first one was a 3D movie, Bahubali. Yes, there was probably a 3D version, but even a 2D version, there was so much of graphics that created that immersive feeling. Robo was the other movie before this, and so on and so forth. We can keep talking about them, but essentially the point that I'm trying to drive is that people really want to be given that kind of immersive experience. Why is that so? Uh, that is because immersiveness drives that cognitive ability, meaning immersiveness gives you that sensation, that feeling that you wouldn't otherwise experience normally. That is the reason why people really latch on to any such opportunity where they could be part of that experience, because that experience is much more valuable than the knowledge. So let's do a quick test. So here is something for you to just maybe a 5-second read, a paragraph about heart and its structure, right? So that is the kind of
Hello.
step.
So we lost
Hello,
you, sir. Okay, so now it's okay, sir.
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. But then, yeah, that immersiveness, I don't know where I got the the disruption happened, but let me just repeat. So here is a short paragraph, a couple of lines of text describing the make of the construction or the anatomy of a heart. Would you, I mean, you obviously, there is some knowledge, there is some information about what is being described there, but then compare that with the other form of presentation where you have a picture depicting the same, pretty much the same thing, probably a little more information in that picture, but then assuming both of them are talking about at the same level of complexity, which one would you prefer? Right? I mean, it's an easy pick, that you would obviously prefer the one on the right hand side, a picture which is much more live. It gives you a much more immersive experience. It lets you feel or understand, what we are talking about. But these things are not it, not completely it. Compare this with what we can do now, right? Now you can just uh, feel it from just the couple of pictures that I'm showing to you. You can imagine the kind of immersive experience that this technology could give, in the sense that the way it could help you understand things better, the way it could help you to reason things better, comprehend complex ideas. It becomes so much more easier for people to get involved, to make most efficient decisions the the moment information is presented to you in that kind of format. So this is what immersive technologies can bring onto the table. That is the power of immersive technologies. What they are actually doing is trying to emulate the physical world. They are emulating the physical world using by creating some kind of sensory input to your mind. And we all know the five senses that we have. We have technologies evolving around each of those areas, each of those domains, that are trying to provide that kind of sensory input and thereby immerse you, to give you enough information using all these five channels to make you be part of the scene, be able to understand better, to react better, reason better, and all of that characteristics that we talked about. So if we just walk through a couple of them, for vision, we have 3D displays that we just talked about, head mounted displays and holography. These are all the technologies that would are attempting to provide you or immerse you, or to overwhelm your senses with the information that you will find it very easy to comprehend. It's a lot of information, but then when it is presented in a format that is much more easier for your brain to process, that's what these technologies are doing. So vision, we said, we have 3D displays, head mounted displays, and so on. Auditories, yeah, there have been, we have been listening to a lot of radios and different types of speakers, but then the surround system is something that gives you a much more immersive feeling, right? And then the tactile technology, or the tactile sense, there are technologies like the haptic technology that is trying to provide you that feel, that touch, and the pressure that you feel when you probably lift, let's say, a bag, or hold a pen, or write something on a notebook. The feeling that you get, there are technologies that are evolving, trying to provide you with that input, sensory input. there are others. I mean, gustation, the flavor, artificial flavor. How do you make someone smell something that actually doesn't exist? So this is all something that the technology is creating, synthesizing. It is kind of creating a virtual environment, and feeding that to all these five senses that we have, so that you get that feeling that you are in a real environment, but ultimately you are actually in a virtual environment. Olfaction is another. I mean, that's the sense of taste, and machine olfaction is something that is being developed. There is some active research being done. I understand there is something called e-nose technology that is being developed, that can produce any kind of smell. Not may not be any kind, but then at least predetermined types of smells, so that when you're watching something, if you see a picture of a popcorn, it would also help if you could smell it, right? If you could smell popcorn while you're looking at a picture of popcorn, that would give you that immersive feeling. And if that picture is not a 2D picture but a 3D picture, that would make it much more immersive. So that's essentially what these technologies are trying to do, right? And it generally, in a general sense, we are using the word virtual reality to to mean, or to represent, or to refer to all of these various technologies, right? These are not this is not one single technology trying to do that. There are many different technologies that have to come together. This is a multidisciplinary field where technologies from various different fields have to come together to you know give you that experience, produce all those sensory inputs that you would need to get into that state of mind where you feel that immersive environment around you. So let's now dig into the specifics of what these technologies are, because I'm sure you have heard of VR, you have heard of other terms called AR, MR, XR, mixed reality, augmented reality. A lot is being talked about it, but there are very specific nuances that we need to understand, before we talk about starting up something, building something, or innovating in any of these areas. So let's spend some time, maybe in the next 5-10 minutes, to understand how to look at this whole a bunch of technologies, these terms essentially that we are using to refer to all of these technologies. So the first thing that we need to understand is, um, we have a real world that we are living in, which is the physical world that we are living in. And if you can imagine a band or a continuum between reality and virtuality on the other extreme, which means that in that virtual world, everything is virtual, nothing is real, meaning everything is synthesized, everything is um, concocted by these one or more of these technologies for you. There, in reality, there is nothing much there. Sorry about that. Um, Something just fell down here. Okay, so coming back, in reality, there is nothing much. There is nothing physical there. It is only the environment, or the set of sensory inputs created by a bunch of these technologies. So um, here, what you're seeing in that picture is a depiction of that. Essentially, as you can imagine, it's only the vision that we are talking about here. But as we have seen in the previous slide, there could also be all other kind of sensory inputs that you can create the virtual environment. So that's the virtuality extreme of this continuum. Now, somewhere in between, you have something called augmented reality. Augmented reality is where you are, I mean, what you see, most of it is real, but you're overlaying, sprinkling it with touches of some virtual objects. So what you're seeing on the screen there is a picture of your car's reverse camera. The reverse camera, where what you see is the physical world, most of it, but it is being overlaid by the track, the tire tracks. That I mean, if you were to reverse the tire, the track or the path that the tires or the car would take, this is based on the position, your steering position. So this system is actually reading your steering position, and then based on that, it is projecting the estimated path your car would take. So what you see here is much of it is real. There are elements of synthetic or synthesized objects, meaning those tracks that you're seeing in red, yellow, and green. Uh, it is giving you, it is telling you the direction, it is telling you how far it is using those color codes, meaning green is okay, you can go till that point. You know how to read this, right? So I don't have to explain all of that. So essentially, it is giving you that information. The moment this information is presented to you in this format, it becomes much easier for you to comprehend. The same information could have been, given to you as a voice. It could say, okay, you can go back by. Up to 1 meter behind the car, everything is clear. But after 1 meter, you have an obstacle. If there is someone talking to you about it, it would be so much more difficult for you to comprehend it. I mean, you can imagine how it would sound, right? And so this is augmented reality. So reality sprinkled with elements of virtual objects. The other is um augmented virtuality. This is where much of what you see is virtual. So here, the way you understand this picture is what that person is actually seeing is what is being projected on the screen there or the monitor there, right? What that person is seeing is most of it is virtual. She is probably seeing, I mean, a knee surgery. Probably that is what is being depicted there, uh, and so what most of what she's seeing is virtual there. But there is a small element of being projected there, which is from the real world, which is probably the tool that she is using. So she is holding onto some kind of a tool, and this is being projected there. So in the virtual environment, you're projecting a real element. So this is a augmented virtuality. You're augmenting the virtual world with real elements. And in virtuality, everything is virtual. For example, you might have seen some kind of 360-degree pictures on the internet, right? As if you're on the top of Mount Everest, or if you are under an ocean or inside an ocean, probably under 100 feet or 1,000 feet, uh, deep dive into the ocean and see the kind of um, um, you know the life that exists there. So all of that is completely virtual. It has no correlation with where you are, what is the real environment around you. Everything is virtual. That's what is virtuality. As a continuum, if you look at, that's the virtuality. If you start sprinkling it with elements of elements that are real, meaning something from around you, that is where it becomes augmented virtuality. A very good example of that is all these games like Pokemon Go, where you would see a Pokemon appearing suddenly somewhere on the street or anywhere else. And then the augmented reality is where much of what you see is real. There are elements of virtuality, and then of course the reality that we are always used to forever, for as long as we have been living on this planet. So so that is where that is probably how you could understand this continuum. And this was first created by Paul Milgram in 94. So these were the kind of definitions he came up with, depending on or based on the technologies that were available then, and what is possible with these kind of immersive technologies. And he also came up with another term called mixed reality, which meant anything and everything between these two, between virtuality and reality. Anything that you would, any other kind of combination, he generally referred to them as mixed reality. So here, okay, keep in mind these are the definitions that were coined in '94 based on the state where all these technologies were at that point. So it was good for that kind of, I mean, for that era. But technologies have evolved significantly. This is already 25 years old. These definitions are already 25 years old. So this technology has evolved significantly. So now we will have to tweak those to fit in all the other possibilities now that are made possible by the technological evolution. So what we can look at is the augmented reality, augmented virtuality. If you really understand, there is no clear demarcation between these two. It's more like uh, half a glass is either half full or half empty. It's a real world with virtual elements or a virtual world with real elements sprinkled on it. So there's hardly any differentiation. So now in the industry, we kind of merge these two, and we use one single term, augmented reality, to represent this whole spectrum. So augmented reality is where you have a combination of real and virtual elements. Never mind if it is 90% real with 10% virtual, or 90% virtual with 10% real. That is not the kind of a distinction that is valuable anymore. We don't really care how or in what proportion these two elements are mixing up. What is more important right now is, can these entities interact with each other? So this continuum, there is a new dimension that opened up, which says, okay, whatever proportion you mix these elements, can they interact with each other? Meaning, if I act on a virtual element, can it impact something on, or can it do something to a real object? I'll give you an example. So uh, there are, I mean, uh, 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 UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles. So these are aerial vehicles that are used for reconnaissance usually, where there is no pilot there. The pilot is just viewing, or sitting in some kind of a data center on Earth. They are just viewing as if they sit inside the cockpit of that plane, and they get those inputs streamed into their office wherever they are. They fly those planes from that location. Usually these are military kind of applications where you use these UAVs to do some reconnaissance missions and stuff. So uh, that is where, you know you are acting on virtual input. The pilot, the physical pilot sitting in a ground station somewhere, is acting on virtual input, but that is impacting something in reality where, the actual plane, the physical plane, is flying, following these instructions. So this is the interaction that we need to um, look at or understand, that what is the impact or the degree to which these two things are connected with each other. The degree of connectedness is what will determine um, whether it is to be called a mixed reality, or if it is just a augmented reality. So there is no scale here. It's only a relative scale, meaning, okay, these two objects can interact much better. These two objects, meaning one is physical, the other is virtual. These two elements can interact much more in a much more connected fashion compared to this other one. So this is mixed reality. The other then becomes an augmented reality. These are generally, I just wanted to give you a simple definition these terms, so that we don't get confused with all of these terms being used in a lot of places. Nowadays, we are using an umbrella term called extended reality to include all of this, but augmented reality is still the real technology that everybody is after. Virtual reality, we have been exposed to that technology for quite a long time. And this is not something new that we started creating only in the last decade or 2 decades. The very first one was created in 1962, and as you can read Sensorama, as you can see, it involved many more senses than just the vision. It had motion to it, which is the tactile aspect of it, wind, which is again tactile, vibrations, which is tactile, aromas, which is only I mean the sense of smell, and there was no sense of taste there. But then you see the kind of immersion that something a technology like that would create. But this is something that was patented and was actually built back in 1962. So this is not new. What is new is how efficiently they can do their job in the current day and age. We will look at that shortly. So sometime in future, we will have these systems so efficient where you can even sentence somebody to to be in a virtual or a augmented reality world. Ignore the VR word in that comic strip, but then in that augmented reality where you're even sentencing or punishing people using the virtual and augmented reality. Take it as a joke. It is to show how immersive these experiences can get. But how far is that? Right? Let's look at the technologies that we need to support this kind of uh, scenario that we just talked about. So what are the technologies that are required? um, we have obviously the human interface, the interface that we are directly using, that is actually streaming all those sensory inputs to us. So usually you can imagine this to be, let's say, the head mounted device, HMD, which is streaming that sensory input to you. So that's the human interface. In that is where we have a hardware and software components we will look into in much detail in the next set of slides. And then we have core applications, core capabilities, where we want to use the information that we are capturing from the user, and we want to analyze it, we want to make decisions based on it. So here is where we have technologies like artificial intelligence and cloud computing. um, and then we have networks to stream and relay all of this data, because there is going to be a ton of information that will be passed between stakeholders. So we need that kind of networks, and obviously we need that final interface to interface with the physical world or the real world. That is where technologies like IoT, robotics play a major role. As you can see, from 92 or 1962 until now, all these other technologies have matured big time. They have grown leaps and bounds compared to how these technologies were, or how, to the state these technologies were back in 62. So I'm not going to get into the details of all those other technologies. That's beyond the scope of this presentation. Let's stay focused on the human interface part, because that is where, when anybody says I'm building a product in VR or AR, this is what they're really dealing with for most part of it. There are the other components or other technologies are important, but this is where the real innovation is happening. So let's stay focused on the human interface alone. Um, if I if we I told you that the human interface is composed of the software and the hardware. So let's look at the software landscape. What's happening? today in the software world. On the x-axis, if you were to map all the different kinds of software, and when I say software, these are the softwares that you could use to build AR, VR applications. On the x-axis, I'm talking about, say, how open the platform is, meaning can that app that you build, can it run on any hardware, or can it run only on a specific predefined or identified hardware only. So that really is what I'm trying to measure on the x-axis, and y-axis is the extensibility, where we are really talking about, can I extend the capabilities of the underlying hardware. So x-axis is where what kind of hardware can it run on, and if it is a very generic hardware, for example, let's say if it is a phone or a tablet, then your market reaches much more, versus if it is on a closed platform, let's say Microsoft HoloLens. If it is so whatever you're going to build build can only be used by somebody who owns the HoloLens, versus if you build something for a mobile phone, the market reach obviously is much more bigger. So that's on the x-axis. So on the y-axis, as I said, how much can you leverage all the underlying hardware? You will understand once you see what I'm talking about. So on the first quadrant, where you're talking about completely unbounded, meaning I can completely leverage the technology, the hardware, the technology or the capabilities of the hardware that the app is running without any hindrance, and it is completely open, meaning I have a huge market reach. That's where probably the native mobile apps fit in, and that's where we have technologies or platforms like ARKit and ARCore that are currently available in the market, right? These are technologies where ARKit is from Apple, ARCore is by Google. These are used, or these can be used to build augmented reality apps for those respective platforms, Android or iOS. On the other hand, it is unbounded, meaning you can exploit the hardware completely, but then it's a closed platform. That's where probably you could slot technologies like Microsoft HoloLens or Magic Leap. They come with their own software development platforms, right? So that's where it kind of becomes restrictive. If you're building something for, as I said, for HoloLens, it can only run on HoloLens. It may not be able to run on Oculus, right? So something like that. So these technologies are more restricted in terms of how much reach you can get in the market because you develop an app in that. The third is where I named it as studio applications, but these are where Snapchat or Facebook and Instagram, I believe, is coming up, where you can build apps, but they can run only within those studios or that environment. So if you build an AR app in Facebook, it can only be used in Facebook. It cannot be run anywhere else. So that's where it is completely bounded and closed, meaning uh, you can only do what Snapchat allows you to do. You can only do what Facebook allows you to do, irrespective of what hardware that those apps are running. And then also the market reach is restricted to somebody who's using Snapchat or Facebook. It cannot be open to all, right? So that's that kind of, or that bucket of technologies. And then you have web applications like 3JS or A-Frame, where you can build AR apps. We shouldn't really be calling them augmented reality, but virtual reality apps, but as a web application, meaning anybody with a browser can run them. Anybody with a browser. So if you build a web application, what's its market reach? Pretty much everybody who has a connected device with a browser on it. There is absolutely no restriction. And is it bounded? Yes, it is bounded, because any kind of web application, there is a severe restriction or a serious restriction in terms of how much it can exploit the underlying hardware, right? So that is where it is bounded, but otherwise, in terms of market reach, it will have a massive reach. So this is kind of to give you an introduction of what are the different kinds of platforms. And maybe you have been trying your hands at different kinds of things, but if you could classify it, this is how they pan out, or this is how they compare with each other. Make a judicious decision which one you want to use, depending on what you're trying to, or what is the market you're trying to build, right? One disclaimer that I just wanted to give you is this is my interpretation, my view as a product manager, how I would see these applications, because any of these things that I pick will have a very serious impact on where I can sell my product and for how much. How big is my market potential? How much can I expect in return for the product that I develop? Right? So as a product manager, that is something that I have to continuously worry about. And that's the reason why, or that is the point from where, if I look at all these technologies, this is how I've classified. There could be exceptions here. This may not be 100% accurate, but generally, this is how they compare with each other. But mind you, software um, area, the domain, there is a very big revolution coming up. And I'm calling it a revolution because this is a industry standard WebXR, which will actually allow or completely revolutionize how web applications can use the hardware. So keep a watch on WebXR. This is going to be a big game changer as far as the software is concerned. Now, let us look at how the hardware platforms are faring today. On one end of the spectrum, again, this is a kind of a spectrum that I've used, where one end you have very high fidelity devices like HoloLens or any other head-mounted display, high precision, highly capable devices built for specific use. They have enormous capabilities in terms of hardware capabilities and the speed and you know uh, the rendering capabilities and all of that. But they will obviously have a very low installed base, or at least right now they have a low installed base because they are still very expensive. So any if you're trying to build a product for custom hardware, your market is going to be very niche, very small, because of the number of people who own these devices, or the number of people who can actually buy these devices. On the other hand, you think of generic hardware, where I'm talking about building an app for different kind of mobile devices or tablets. Now, suddenly your market size is much bigger. A lot of the installed base is very high. People don't have to buy a device to use your app, but then they are not specialized for giving that immersive kind of experiences, right? So they're not built for that. So you will have to compromise on that. I'm not saying which is better, one is better than the other. I'm just trying to tell you how you go about making that decision. Where do I build? Which software platform do I pick? Which hardware or what kind of hardware do I build these applications for? Just a guide there. But beyond all of this, there is something else that is coming up in the next 1 or 2 years. We can actually see a lot of smart glasses coming up. This new kind of hardware, I think, is a good compromise between these two extremes. It is going to be a generic hardware, but then it is built to give that immersive experience. So again, watch out. On the software front, as I said, WebXR is a good compromise between market reach and capability to extract the best out of the underlying hardware. That's the WebXR standard that's coming up. Watch out for that on the software front. The hardware, smart glasses, just like your smart watches, smart glasses, which are built to give you that kind of experience. But these are going to be made popular as a generic hardware, not as a custom hardware. So just watch out for these two innovations to come out into the market in the next 1 or 2 years. Right now, so we have seen the software for AR, VR, or the extended reality, or the immersive technologies. And then we have seen the hardware where it is. Now let us look at the Gartner hype cycle. I mean, the market landscape, how it is. Gartner says that AR is no longer considered as an emerging technology. It is ready to be deployed, meaning it has already matured. Those of you who know the hype cycle may understand the journey that uh, augmented reality took. It appeared in 2005 and 2018. It kind of matured, and Gartner, who is one of uh, a very, um, I mean, a popular analyst, they say that it is already matured. So Gartner predicts augmented reality will be deployed in one third of all enterprises by 21. So that is good news. So that means that there is good market. IDC says 77% CAGR. Sorry, spending. 77% spending um, worldwide between 2019 and 2024. The growth rate is 79% per annum between this period, meaning the market is almost doubling every year. So that's a very big, potent opportunity right there. And then we have markets and markets predicting somewhere between 40 and 70% CAGR between 2019, 2017 actually, and 2023. But essentially, what I've wanted to drive here is that analysts are all upbeat. They are really upbeat about this technology. They say there is going to be a lot of market for AR, VR, XR, whatever is the term that suits you. But then essentially these are all extended reality or the immersive technologies and the applications of immersive technologies. Asia Pacific is going to witness the highest growth rate, is what analysts say. North America will hold most of the market. That will still be the biggest market, but Asia Pacific will see the biggest leap in terms of the size of the market growth. Education, entertainment, and retail industries are going to lead this. So anything that you want to build using these technologies, note the industries where you have the biggest potential. Healthcare and medical will definitely witness a lot of innovation, meaning there is a lot of potential there. You will see a lot of innovation in those segments. All the major players, who's who of the industry, they're all invested. So you see um, um, uh, they're all seriously investing into these technologies. That's another indication that something big is happening. They are all upbeat about this technology. Now, specifically looking at healthcare, the predictions are that the annual growth rate would be somewhere around 30% until 26, starting 2017 or 2018 onwards. Um, but the total market value is expected to hit 4 billion by 2025. So that's something you might want to watch out for. I'm not going to go through all the other details in the interest of time, but then these are some of the potential areas that come to my mind based on my research, where there is a lot of potential. Imaging and diagnosis, patient education, patient rehabilitation, um, lifestyle management, surgical planning, surgical training, and surgical support, mental health. These are all the areas where, I mean, to me, it occurs that these are all the areas where we see a definite potential in the healthcare sector for these technologies to be applied. There is a lot of activity already going on in those areas. But in conclusion, what I wanted to say is that get started now if you want to play in this market. This being an incubator, and most of you have already started up or are planning to start up, I would say it's a good time to start. there is a lot of maturity in all the supporting technologies. They have evolved quite a bit. So you can bet on those developments. Market projections are big, but on the engineering side of things, there is going to be some kind of volatility before things settle down. Keep that in mind when you're investing, when you are planning your startup. Keep that in mind. There is going to be quite amount of volatility where it comes to standardizations coming in, consolidations of technologies and all of that. There will be volatility, but then this is a very good time to get started. As we said, education, entertainment, retail, that seems to be a very fertile area for anybody to invest as far as these extended reality technologies are concerned. Right? Beware of ending up in a silo. Just make sure you stay focused on how the standardization is is spreading in the market. Do not stick with one single platform, one single kind of hardware or a vendor, because things change very rapidly. For example, anything that is a standard, or anything that has that kind of market reach, is what you definitely want to adhere to or progress towards. Don't create silos, because silos are great, but then they don't take you very long. A very good example of that is BlackBerry. Very good smartphone, one of the first smartphones, but it's not a standard. It doesn't adhere to any generally accepted standards. So in spite of all its strengths, it has to lose out to open platforms such as Android and iOS. Right, so beware of that, and prepare for a very long gestation period for healthcare products. Keep that in mind. This is something that I would just want to remind you, based on my experience in product management. Some tips. Um, just because you can build it doesn't mean you should build it. So start from your customer, start from a real need, and build backwards. Just because the technology exists, don't build a product. The last thing that you want is to build a product that nobody uses. So be very careful in that area. Start from a real need. Make sure your early adapters are getting involved right up front, and make sure they see the value that you think you are delivering. Don't build something that you think will add value. Don't give them what you think they need. Give them what they actually need. So focus on that, and never fall in love with your product. Fall in love with the problem you're solving. If you fall in love with your product, there's very big chance that you get strayed from where the problem is moving. Problems are dynamic. They're not stationary. They don't um, stay in one place. They keep moving. So make sure you have that kind of discipline to continue to focus on the problem and not on the product. Right. Uh, with that, I'm pretty much done. Sorry, I think we thought we would have a 10-minute 10-minute interval for questions, but I'm happy to extend. So any questions anybody has, please ask me now. So thanks for your time. Thanks for joining in, and I'm open to take any questions that you have.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. So we have some questions in the chat box, sir. So Ramco's Technologies, do you want to unmute and go ahead with your question?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Ramana Valluri, sir, and good
Yeah, good
evening,
evening.
everybody. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I have few questions like why should we choose AR over VR in the healthcare?
Okay, so AR and VR are two different. They provide two different experiences. As we discussed, VR is only virtual, meaning what you see there is completely virtual. AR actually allows a mix of both physical or the real and virtual elements and how they can interact with each other, right? Now, I cannot s- prescribe if you should be using AR or if you should be using VR. You should start from the problem. Start from the problem and say, okay, if your objective is to train somebody, if your objective is to train somebody or educate somebody, then probably VR is okay. But if you want to give them hands-on experience, then you mean to say that you want to give them that virtual environment and with a touch of that physical aspect where they can actually work on the virtual environment, then that's where AR becomes important. So start with the problem. These are two different technologies. It's not, I mean, we are not choosing AR over VR because one is better than the other. These are two different technologies. You have to start from the problem, identify which technology is better suited to solve that problem. I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Then the second question, sir, why quality assurance and testing is important for AR, VR, and MR products, especially in the healthcare, because healthcare we need to go for quality uh, assurance and accreditations. So can you
Yes,
elaborate on
so
that, sir?
why I think it is kind of self-explanatory. If I would tell you that this is a device, a new device that probably cured something, maybe okay, take the current situation, Corona, COVID-19. There are a lot of vaccines on trial. So if someone would come to you and say, okay, this is a vaccine, and I am pretty confident it will cure Corona, but you know I haven't tested it. Would you take that? Right? It's a, I mean, testing safety obviously is the most important reason or the most important aspect, um, or a requirement that anybody would demand. If anybody who wants to use any of your products or services, I mean, safety is something that they would demand. So we just have to make sure the product that we are building is completely safe, and it delivers the benefits that you claim that it, or what you planned when for that product when you started building it. So it is important that you have that focus on ensuring the quality meets the quality of the delivered product meets what you claim the product is going to help you with.
Yeah, actually, my question is these AR, VR, and MR products, they may be software based, but then is there any software which can do the quality testing and on these new
Oh,
products,
oh,
new technologies? That is my
okay,
elaboration on that.
okay. Okay, so right now these are still those platforms are still evolving. So I don't think if you're talking about any kind of automation, I don't think such automation exists as yet. Even if it exists, they're more of prototypes or proof of concepts than production grade products that you could actually use. But then yes, in the days to come, because these platforms themselves are maturing. For VR, you can say it's partially there where you can go to the market with some kind of products, but augmented reality or extended reality in general, the platforms are still maturing. There is a lot of change that is happening. So once they reach that matured state, I'm sure you will see those kind of tools also emerge. But to your question, right now I can't think of any tool that is immediately available that you could put to use.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This AR is used in the healthcare education and healthcare diagnostic. In your initial slides, how do you see the future of
Yes.
these technologies in the medical field? And can I develop an app in the healthcare without using Microsoft HoloLens or Oculus or smart glasses?
Okay, so to your first question, how do we see the potential for AR, VR in healthcare education? Let me not classify it as healthcare education, but education is definitely one of the most potent areas. And if you have followed the slide where I read out some highlights from some of the analysts, everybody is betting on education. Education, apart from entertainment would also include gaming, but then apart from entertainment, education is the next most potent area, because this technology helps you, uh, you know helps you experience things, and experiencing is very important for somebody to be educated. I mean, as part of education, experience is very important. That's why we keep having theory and labs for almost all the applications, right? Anything that relates to applications. So definitely, education is a very big sector as far as healthcare is concerned. Diagnostics is a little more complicated. First, because education itself, it doesn't do any harm. Let's say in the middle of a session there is a break, or the technology breaks, or the app breaks, doesn't matter. But in case of anything that touches a human life or impacts, if the diagnostics is offline, let's say, I would still say it's a big area. I have actually pointed it in uh, my list of most, I mean, the areas also. If you see, yeah, imaging and diagnosis is one of the first area, right? This is a very potent area, because there is a lot of information that is available in other forms, be it in text or in two-dimension um, uh, imaging, 2D imaging. But then anything that is three-dimensional with that kind of immersive experience, it's definitely much will be sought after. So education, undoubtedly a very potent area. Diagnostics, it's definitely, there is a lot of future, but it is yet to be proven in the market, because we don't see, we can't really predict things unless we start seeing those kind of applications. But the predictions are that education will definitely be a very potent area. Diagnostics will evolve, but may not be at the rate at which education will, simply because of the numbers, also the size of the market. Also, education is a much wider, broader market compared to diagnostics, which is restricted to hospitals and clinics.
Yeah, thank you so
and
much,
and
sir. Uh,
thank you. Did you have another question, or did I miss
yeah, I
any
had
question?
another
Or
question. That is, can I
yeah,
use the app in healthcare
sorry, can you
without
please
using
repeat?
Microsoft? Can I use an app in healthcare without using Microsoft HoloLens or Oculus or smart glasses?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. I don't have it, but no, Oculus or HoloLens, these are devices created to create that kind of immersive experiences. But then experience need not be only in the form of a 3D virtual reality or an augmented reality environment. For instance, if you can quickly check up, I don't have that in the slide deck, but there is something called AccuVein. AccuVein, if you know, or you maybe you can just search for it. ACCUVEIN. Uh, this is a device which is not a head-mounted device. You point it to a part of your body, and it will project using infrared. It senses where your veins are and projects light, and
Vein
then
finder.
helps you identify where the veins are. Sorry, did you
Yeah,
say you found it?
yeah, it is called as the vein finder and used for
Vein.
identifying in patients where the veins are not easily visible, especially in
Exactly.
infants and old
Ex-
people.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Why I took reference of that is to explain that whenever we talk about augmented reality or extended reality, the immediate reaction or the immediate remembrance that we have is of a headset and then two controllers in two hands, and we are gazing up, looking up into the sky. It need not be like that all the time, right? That is an easiest way of giving you that immersive experience. But the vein finders are also is a good example where that's perfect example of augmented reality where I am projecting, I'm reading. There is an IoT aspect to it where I'm reading, sensing something from the real world, and then using it to project again onto the real world information where you have a vein or where you don't have a vein, or what is the possibility or probability of finding a vein. A very perfect example. It doesn't have to be in 3D all the time,
Yes, sir.
right?
Excellent, sir. Excellent knowledge sharing and excellent insight, sir. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. Glad you liked it.
Thank you, sir. So we have
Uh,
another question, sir. Can we take, sir?
yes, yes, I can extend, no problem.
Okay, so thank you, sir. So, Dr. Rajit, do you want to unmute and go ahead with your question? Uh,
Hi, I'm not
Hello.
audible.
yes,
Yes,
Am
I
I
sir.
can
audible?
hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, we are having a product for teletherapy. This has got a very basic AR application. It's actually 2D
Okay,
with 2D,
okay,
and
okay.
but we want to upgrade to the headset part. What we have is version. We thought of uh, like where would you find resources to do to upgrade? Like
Yeah. Okay, could you please
finding
repeat
people
the
is also
question?
difficult.
Could you
Finding
please
people
repeat?
who know, finding the right people who are experienced in AR, MR in India is really difficult. That's what I'm feeling. Uh, Expertise.
Yes, yes, I kind of agree. I will agree with you. Um, Getting people will be difficult for these technologies because these technologies themselves are evolving. As
Yeah.
I've shown in one of the previous slides, this technologies themselves are evolving in a very evolutionary stage. Meaning, I don't know what software have you used to create your current version of the product?
It is actually a bit web based. We started on with
Web.
Unity. Yeah, we
Okay,
started with
unit.
Unity, but we had to change to Unity was too heavy, and we are having a live call, so we are not able to do Unity. So we went to WebRTC and then another product along with it, which we custom made ourselves. So we
Okay,
are having very light product,
very good.
a 2D, very light product, but it
So it is
works on our normal communication. But it's a very light product, but it works. It is a web application.
web application. And how about the hardware?
There's no hardware. It's
Is
mobile,
that going to be mobile?
mobile,
It's
mobile,
mobile based.
mobile.
So you use mobile.
Both.
Yeah.
Laptop,
So
some
yeah.
it works well with mobile and tablet.
Okay. Okay. Essentially, yeah, mobile and tablet, two devices, two different form factors, essentially the same technology
Okay.
there. But then, yeah, I mean, to your first question, where do we find resources? Really depends on what software that you want to use. I'm assuming that you would, I mean, to get to a headset, you will have to choose a headset that is, that can run your web apps,
What
which
we
I,
initially did was we used
yeah,
Lenovo's AR kit.
okay,
Lenovo has got a VR converter, so we used the
okay,
VR converter to do it. But the problem was that it had a cap in front, so
okay,
we needed to open that part so that the back cam should be open. So this is
okay.
a modification. We cut away a piece of it, but we don't have a other than like original one. We modified the
Yeah,
VR and used it, but we had to use
yeah.
where it works only in few mobiles, not in all
eh,
mobile.
all mobiles. So be careful. That, I mean, my advice as a product manager is to be careful when you're trading. That's where you're getting closer to a closed platform. Very
Uh-huh.
specific hardware, very specific application. Your market reach is going to be impacted big time. So that's
Mhm.
that's where in the other slide that I said, avoid creating silos, right? Don't
Right.
create silos. Don't isolate yourself. Be as generic as possible, because creating a highly technical, solving a very deep need, a very niche problem is easy, but then you will have a very limited market for those kind of products, versus you create a very simple, something like a Snapchat which will just uh, uh, change how you look, but you imagine the kind of impact it can have, where the number of users will be vast. So stick with open platforms, stick with uh, I mean, applications that can run on, or platforms that can run on any hardware, before you get into I mean, I'm not saying you should never do these kind of things, but you should see that kind of a need, that kind of a demand coming from your users, your target market. If they demand that, no, I am okay to buy a HoloLens, but I need that kind of experience, otherwise my problem is not solved. By all means, yes, go ahead and build it there. But otherwise, stay away from those silos. That would be my
We are able to
advice.
solve the problem with the current thing, but saying the immersive technology, we would need like something like a headset. So that's what we are thinking about it. But this also does, because only thing is we need two people to do therapy now instead
Okay.
of other one, which could have been one person. One person has to hold the hand, camera. Other person has to ask the patient to do. So you need two people to do.
Yeah. So I'll latch on to something that you just said. The current product solves the problem, but then this gives um, a more immersive experience. Yes, it does give immersive experience, but are your users asking for it?
No, no,
I
no.
do
They're not
understand
asking.
the other advantage that you have. Then please don't do it.
No, they're
As
not
simple
asking
as
for it.
that. Start with your users. Start with your
Okay.
users. Because
Okay.
okay, there are two things, right? One is innovating on the technological front, building something really big, something really cute and extraordinary, is more of a hobby. But this is an incubator, and you are a startup. Business is something more real, right? It runs only on market and the capability of the market to pay you for what you're building. If that doesn't exist, it is not solving any purpose. So just from a business point of view, I would say, don't build it if your users are not asking for it.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
The research side, yes, I mean, perfectly fine. uh, please do your research. Just, I mean, if you want to be prepared for, let's say, by when um, the smart glasses hit the market, you want to be prepared, by all means, please continue with your research. Please, I mean, go ahead and build those kind of prototypes or proof of concepts. But uh, real business happens only when people are paying you for it.
Hope that Rajit's question has been answered. So we came to the end, sir. So thank you, sir, for your time, and the session was so insightful through your presentation. So one request, sir. So usually we will be posting our session videos on our YouTube channel for the participants who missed our session. So I hope that is fine with you, sir.
Yeah, I'm okay. This can be posted.
Okay, sir. Then thank you, sir. Once again, thank you for your time and support. And thank you for the participants who joined the session. Have a good evening. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. A pleasure to be presenting here, and hope to see you sometime on some other platform. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.